I feel like we're going to both be interviewing each other in this situation. And I feel like we should let everybody know who's watching that this is the first time that we are meeting.
Yeah, sure.
I, myself, have a podcast called When I Grow Up. And now I am just trying to dive deep into why people do what they do and how they overcome obstacles and how you can really just take that next step towards that thing that you really want. That's me.
I like that topic, by the way. I'm Edward Vrecker. I started a podcast called No Need for Postcards. It originally was a travel blog several years ago, and I stopped writing for it just before COVID times. And so last year I was thinking, what can I do with this name? Do I go back to writing again? Or is there just something else I could do around travelling? And it was around the same time that I started to listen to podcasts for the first time. And so I had an idea, a light bulb goes off in your head and it goes, I could do a podcast about solo travel. Because I like talking one-to-one with people. That's kind of where I feel like I'm best. I'm not very good at talking in a large group.
Yeah, that's difficult.
Yeah, it's like, God, no. So this is great. What we're doing here is perfect. We could talk for hours. And so it just made a lot of sense to me that I should do this. And ironically, about a month later, I came to the podcast show and I never heard of it before, found it, and I was like, oh, this makes a bit of sense. It's like universe telling me I should do this. So yeah, I just found people to interview who I knew, and it's published at the start of this year.
And so are you interviewing people who have also travelled, or like what's your conversation structure looking like? And also, another thought, I really like your title, No Need for Postcards. Where did that come from?
So, what was the first question again?
First question was the structure of how you and the other. So, are you usually finding guests who? Because when we first started this conversation, and you said to me what you did, I was like, oh my goodness, I have not travelled. I have barely travelled. I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk about this stuff. So, what kind of guests is it that you're looking for, and that you end up having on the show?
I look for guests who have travelled solo, even if it's just one trip, because there's a couple of people who've just gone on one trip. But that's what I want to hear from people who do the same thing that I've done, and who understand what they've got from it in a positive way. When I find people, and I've tended to find people who literally I've worked with, or people have approached me recently, and I have a chat with them before we even sit down and do a podcast recording, so I can get a vibe. What is it they've done? Oh, okay, they've done this, and this. I can maybe steer some questions this way. I mean, I have bulk standard questions that I have in the script, but I found that when I've started doing it, I've done about 8 episodes with interviewing people, and so I'm already seeing where I am now is different to when I started.
That's amazing.
To the point where the last one I did, I was at a better point where I was not just listening and letting them talk. I was picking up on things that they said, and I was then formulating more questions that would go off my script, and that's exactly where I think it needs to be, because it's not just going, okay, you've talked for 10 minutes, and I'd move on to a different topic, and it's like, how have I made it link?
More in sync and combined.
Yeah, and naturally when I've gone on and listening to people and I've asked certain things off script, what they've said has kind of naturally led into other questions that I had. So I think that's been quite nice that that's organically happened.
So what kind of things usually crop up in your kind of podcasts in regards to the topics? What do you tend to cover?
Do you know what the most amazing thing I found is that it comes back to a lot of how people are as a person in their own life, how independent they actually are already, or how more independent they are because they've travelled solo.
Yeah.
And because when we were talking about doing this today, you mentioned about mental health and self-development.
Yeah.
And I very much find that people talk about it, solo travelling, and it's a lot to do with this help their mental health. And I found that it's helped me in the same time I've been solo traveling, a lot of things in my life have kind of gone in a very positive way.
Sorry to interject, so just as in using solo travel as a way to help navigate mental health and...
No, the other way around. I found like doing solo traveling it's helped me recognize certain things about myself that probably I didn't like put a stamp on and go, oh, that is this, I'm struggling with anxiety, or anxiety is a thing like a social anxiety of being... Sorry, when I've done things independently in the UK at home, I'm very comfortable with it. The best example I can give is when I've gone abroad to restaurants. I struggled with that. I struggled with like going, oh my god, are people going to notice that I'm alone? Or walking into a restaurant going, yeah, table for one. Oh, just for one? Yeah, why you have to say it? Like, do you know what I mean?
To be
why
fair,
you have to
I
look?
get that in England a lot. Like, because I often go off and do things on my own, and it's like there's such a stigma with it.
Yeah, no, totally.
But the thing is, I think it's so difficult because actually we need to be alone more to be able to understand what the hell's going on in our heads.
No, exactly. No, absolutely. I totally agree. And I found like it wasn't just talking about, oh, where have you been? Because it's a bit like, it's a bit vanilla, and it's like I can get someone going, they've been to Barbados or Hawaii and whatever, but it's a bit more like, what is it you've actually learned? Because I could have so many interviews like that. It's going, what is the audience going to get from this? Oh, I've never heard of this place. I guess that's something, but it's more like, because it is niche, it is solo traveling, it's particular to things like that, and it could be other things like for people who are from like ethnic minorities, or if you're female, or if you're gay, or anything like that. Those have other challenges, I think, with it when you're actually traveling somewhere else where maybe it's not as accepted. So, and then all the people I've interviewed so far have been female, and I think, that wasn't like designed, but I get on well more with female people than male. That's just in my life. So I felt comfortable talking and having those conversations. I find it easy to connect on a more emotional level. To answer your other question about the name, again, it was when I was creating the blog, and I was thinking, is there some sort of clever thing I could have that's to do with travel to name that blog as? And I used to write postcards, which I think a lot of people used to do back in the day.
Very nostalgic.
Yeah, and then it literally came to me, I was like, well, I don't need a postcard for this, and I was like, there we go, that's the name, isn't it?
One thing that I always worry about is doing things on your own and like not really reaching out to too many people, but sometimes I do find it's a lot easier to just kind of focus on your path, and then people can generally just cross it. So when you said like no need for postcards, that's kind of what it made me think of. Like, you don't need to be like letting people know this or that or whatever. You just need to be going out and living your life.
That's a brilliant point. I've never thought of it like that.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, that's the vibe I got from it.
Well, the name never came from the podcast conversation. It came from much more of the idea of people come to my blog, they can hear about a place rather than actually someone sending a postcard to hear about.
Oh, I get you. So it's like the information's here.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is the biggest, or like I would say the most poignant thing that you have learned from
The thing that comes to mind is when I think about if I didn't solo travel, I would never have gone to any place in the last 15 years, because all of my friends, like their families, some of them don't live in London. I don't have a big circle of friends, and so if I waited to go with someone, would they have been available? No.
I was kind of getting on with it and taking it on.
So that's what I did. I was like, well, why do I need to wait to go with someone? When you book a flight or a hotel, there is an option for one. It's not like it's zoned out. It's there. So click it, go for it, and do what you want to do.
I guess it's that thing about, if it's something that you want to do, you just focus and you just do it and don't really worry about what else is going on around you. So in regards to kind of your self-development and throughout your experience, I guess a couple of things. How has solo travelling aided to that? And what have been the difficult things that you've had to like struggle with on a kind of, I want to say, emotional or mental realm?
I think I didn't make a link between my own development and like self-development and my kind of understanding of my mental health with solo traveling until I started thinking about the podcast a lot, and actually what more meaning is it that I've got from that. For a long time I just considered it, I'm just going to this nice place, you know, I'm at the Eiffel Tower, or I've been to Bruges, I've been to this market, or I've been to the Opera House in Vienna. I just had those kind of stamped things, you know, like you've done those things. It's only when I've really started talking about personally my own mental health and for myself in the past 9 months, and actually that part about the restaurant I was telling you about, it was when things like that started happening, I was a bit like, what is this? What? And I know I've survived those trips or those months because I'm still here today. And so there are some bits where I know how I feel in certain situations when I'm traveling abroad, and it's similar to what you just said about, you know, you struggle with that here, even in home, to have to go somewhere by yourself. And I think
it takes a lot of strength, you know.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen quite a lot. So the thought of actually going all the way across the country, like for me personally, I would be a bit scared. Don't get me wrong, I'd probably still do it, but I know that my anxiety would be absolutely ticking over, and I would be so hyper vigilant at everything around me, and overthinking would kick in and everything. So I'm just really curious to know if you've experienced any of those things.
Yeah, I have. I mean, the biggest thing is the restaurant, the eating out. So when I remember the time when actually that was really bad, and it was when I was in Venice. I literally walked around the town I did about 3 laps, because I was just like, oh, where's a place that isn't so busy? Or where's a place that looks more accommodating, or just staff friendly? And I just got into my head that like, oh, I just had to go back 1 lap and go, oh yeah, that place and that place. Okay, go back around again, check that place. Is it still the same feeling I get? And I was like, why am I putting so much emphasis on this? And then I tried to then understand, well, how can I help manage myself better in those situations in the future? So for example, why don't I just book a table? I know where I'm going. I take all the other bits out of my head. I'm going, that is the place I'm going to at this time. Walk in there, there's my name, what's the problem? I am there.
Kind of like you've prepared,
yeah,
and you know.
Absolutely.
I'm really only just starting to realise how important preparation is.
That is so good. I need that for me. Because I've spoken to people on the podcast who are very much more spontaneous in how they approach their solo travelling. And I think it's amazing to hear people's experience like that. But I know that's not my way that I can travel. But it doesn't mean that I will always be the same way. I just know if I'm in control into a degree of going, if I go into a trip knowing that that's what it's gonna do, then that's a bit of control as well. Like for example, I'm going to Basel on Friday for this weekend, and I don't really have a plan. It was kind of last minute, which isn't like me.
Sorry, where are you going?
Basel in Switzerland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just going, I'll just figure it out. I don't have to visit certain places. I just go around, sit in a park or sit in a cafe.
Those normal things that you would just do in England that you wouldn't really think much of. And the thing is, I reckon you're probably quite a pro at it now. And I do believe that if you do things enough, it just turns into muscle memory. So for me, like maybe the getting on the plane and doing all that will probably start, like, cogs will start whirling. But that must be such a normal thing for you now, since you've done it for so long.
Yeah, even through some of the things I may still experience, which are a struggle, I know I can get through it. I can know I will be on the plane back, and I can deal with anything that comes up.
Yeah.
There's certain things that haven't gone very well. Probably the biggest story for me when it didn't go well, and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't deal with it very well, was when I went to Iceland. I went to Reykjavik a few years ago, and I kind of booked it a little bit last minute for me. I didn't really have a plan. I knew I would have wanted to go see out the whales or to go on a boat trip, see the Northern Lights. I knew I would have wanted to do that, but I booked those things quite last minute, so I didn't know where I was going. I spent more money than I probably would have done. And then when I got there, I didn't have the instructions to access the accommodation, and this was on a Sunday night at the evening, and it was like I was stood in the middle of somewhere and I couldn't get into the block.
Oh no.
And immediately everything shut down. I was like, I didn't think clearly, I didn't think to contact the tour operator or anything like that. I was just like, okay, I'm alone, I'll deal with it myself. So I went somewhere else. I went to a hotel, and I didn't think to kind of even let anyone know who helped me book it that this has happened. I would just sort it out later, which obviously isn't the right thing to do, because they
but
probably
did you kind of go
would.
like a little bit of a blank type thing?
Yeah,
I've been there. Like, you kind of go into a space and then you can't really focus on anything, and all of a sudden it's like, okay.
And I'll just pretend it's fine, because I'll just go to the Hilton hotel down the road, which wasn't, again, not the
quickest solution type thing.
Yeah,
how can I get out of this?
Yeah, and that didn't help, because I spent more money than I actually really had to.
Was that more for an afterthought though, the money thing, or was it in that moment when you're sitting there and thinking about it? Or were you just thinking about like, oh, I just need to get somewhere?
So I'll be honest with you, I booked on a credit card, which I don't normally do. And then so when I did that, I didn't have a lot of expenditure money. I had enough to do what I was planning to sort of do when I was there, thinking, oh, I'll do this when I'm there, I'll sort it out when I'm there. Then when this happened, that threw everything out of the window. I did have the whale watching booked, I did have the boat tour to look at the Northern Lights. And when I went on those things didn't happen, because I didn't see the whales, the Northern Lights, they weren't visible. So it was like, it had such a negative spin, so many things, and that could have happened, right? Even if the hotel was fine, because it's nature, you can't like predict everything's going to happen on that day. But it was more like, oh my god, another thing went wrong, another thing went wrong.
Like things happen like in a one, like if something kind of like big like that happens, I do feel like it can have that ripple effect, because it kind of sets your mindset is no longer now in that place, and it's now joined into that, oh no, everything's going to go wrong type place, and that is really, really difficult to get out of.
Yeah, and this was like, I think it was 2021, so this was still around COVID times. So at the time you had to like get a test to go out to prove you're negative, and I had to take a test to come back. And I was thinking at that point, going, well, it will just be my luck that I'll be positive when I'm in Reykjavik and I can't travel back. And I was like, thankfully it wasn't. I was able to get back.
See, that's the things that I would worry about, like getting out there and then just being stuck in another country or not going anywhere, or being trafficked, or being like poisoned, or a million different things.
Yeah. But from that very not happy experience, let's say, I went back the next year, because what made me go back was the fact that because I didn't see the whales or the Northern Lights on the tour operator, you could go back within another year and use the same. So I was like, I had a good reason to go back in the next year. And because I'd learned things like, I've been around the city, so I know where things are. The time of year I went was during winter, so I knew the weather. I knew how much time there was for light, which I wasn't really expecting when I went there the first time. So, and I knew places to go eat. So when I went back, everything was smoother. I knew I had the accommodation sorted, I knew where to go. It was a more standard hotel. I had things planned, I was going to go to the Blue Lagoon. It was so much, it was like completely the other end.
Oh, that's nice.
And so I knew from then I had to adapt how I was traveling, like things like, if I'm not sure about the accommodation, if I've not got a very specific instruction, follow that up. Use your instinct a little bit. Know those things before you go, because that you have to learn, as with anything in life.
Yeah, I think
from a negative experience.
And pivoting is such an important thing to be able to do. I find that the patterns of life is what kind of gives an illusion of safety, but actually it's only when you break those patterns that you realise kind of what life is actually like.
Yeah. So that was probably my worst experience that I've had when I've travelled solo. But as I said, I got out of there alive, got back home, and I think that I can deal with anything that really sort of happens, as long as I've got money in my pocket, my passport with me. Yeah. And even the things I've heard people talk about on the podcast, I'm like, oh, okay, from a safety perspective, I can sort of unlearn it.
It sounds like you're quite versed in it as well, and I imagine with having conversations with these people, you would have heard more about like tips and things and do's and don'ts and whatnot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I can see how it's probably because I've done it for so long, as you mentioned earlier. So people, like you were saying, I'd be worried about certain things, or when I've heard people tell me that, I'm a bit like, I get why, but it's kind of like a water off a duck's back to me. I'm a bit like, I can roll with that. I can, because I know what to do beforehand. I know how I travel. I know I sort of myself out. I know how to get from the airport to the city centre. That manages everything for me.
This is like my newest revelation at the moment, that anything you want to do and anything that you want to achieve, the only thing in between you and achieving that is knowledge. And so you can literally just like do anything. And it's like, okay, and then as soon as you put it into practice a little bit more like you have, it will start becoming so fluid and normal. Like it will become your new normal. So,
do you know when we talk about the self-development of all of this and how I'm better or smoother at it, I actually probably find it hard to pinpoint what has been better for me. It's only when probably we're having this sort of conversations that actually it kind of becomes crystallized in my head what those things are, because I'm the one experiencing it. I can't see exactly. I don't write it down or anything. You just do it. I don't write a report every time I do on this trip and go, oh, look at this report now. What was it like 10 years ago?
But do you not like have emotional kind of like clicks in you? So like if you have a good or a bad or a something feeling, you just kind of feel a strong certain emotion that helps you recall it.
It's like a checkpoint in your head. If something like the bad experience happens, then it kind of goes, oh, hold up, that didn't happen before. I didn't feel like that. It has to sort of be like a out of the ordinary thing that kind of checks me and then makes me realise. When I went to Lisbon last year, and then I went to the street food market, and one place didn't take card. The card, I was a bit like, ooh, what's going on here? Like that, I thought the Western world had sort of changed, and then it was like, oh, maybe that's something to pick up on, because I hadn't heard people talking about taking cash, because when I used to go away with my parents, it was all like traveller's checks were a thing, or you take more cash than you would card, and so actually exchanging money I hadn't done for a while, and so that thing was kind of like, then I started to like read stuff, and it was people talking about actually maybe you should just take a mix. Just to cover yourself.
Well, that was always my
I didn't. I kind of thought the world was going a certain way, and maybe it hasn't. Maybe that's kind of like I have to. I guess it's that little bit of experience you just learn and go. And that wasn't. It wasn't like cash card wasn't taken elsewhere in Lisbon. It was just that particular place where I was like, oh. Then it got me. For this. Yeah, it got me on the back foot going, oh, where else am I going to go? I'm like, do I have to ask if they take card? Like, I don't want to be travelling like that. At those little like points where it kind of goes, ooh, that's different. Actually, do you know what? It's been like this for a while. Now I have to relearn a little bit or adapt. You always have to adapt in life to things that happen.
That's more like a physical thing as opposed to like an emotional thing.
Yeah.
Unless it made you feel like kind of a certain way, but I guess maybe they're a bit more inclined.
I've learned so much to not be worried about people looking at me and the fact that I'm alone. Being independent here at home, I've got so much better at that. And I said this to a friend the other day, and I was like, being at the age I'm at now of 40, I'm like, I feel like I'm at the best point in my life now. I understand myself more than I've ever understood myself, and because I've done things to help me understand myself a lot more. So one of the things I did last year was actually I started seeing a therapist, because I thought I was at the time, I'd been thinking about it for a while, and I was thinking maybe I just need to talk to someone to help me understand why I am like, I feel these certain ways at points. and
which is safer.
yeah, and so I think that's helped me kind of like know who I am a lot more, and I think that's been great. And I think solo travel is so much a part of actually knowing what you have strengths, that you can deal with certain things, you can carry yourself through. The last interview I did was probably the best I've had in terms of my experience, not just for the other person, but I listened to a podcast thing about dating like a few days before I did this interview. And he was talking about the most important relationship you can have is the one with yourself.
So true.
Absolutely, isn't it? Like, but you know, sometimes you need to hear it again and go, yes, it's in your head.
But I feel like that's one of the pieces of advice, and I guess being in the realm that I am, that I often hear a lot, and I feel like it kind of gets watered down a little bit to a bit of a cliche saying.
Yeah.
But when people actually start experiencing that and realising it, it's a whole different experience. It's kind of like scary, but nice scary. Like I feel like when you were saying about the going out and just doing your own thing and whatnot, like I do this a lot. I'm a firm believer of just jumping in the deep end, and it is scary as hell. But I feel like sometimes you need to be able to break the norm or break those cycles and those loops that you're used to. And then when you do that, you kind of like break yourself apart, and then you put yourself back together, and it's kind of really amazing. Turn into this nice, new, shiny self.
When I heard that kind of podcast, the episode, and then I went into the interview I was doing a few days later, and the way we were talking, the way she was talking, the way I was asking certain questions, it was like there was a link between what she was saying and what I just heard a few days ago about actually it helps you, solo traveling helps you understand more about yourself and actually the relationship you are having with the world. You're connecting with you. If you have the ability to actually walk out of the door, go here, go there, it gives you so much strength that you need to be able to do that for yourself first before then actually needing someone else to be with to do the same thing. You sort of have to be on like parallel lines if you're in a relationship or something, and then but be able to be who you are, because if you are only who you are because of someone else, it's kind of your identity is not like you. It's
like
not
taking
there.
those external factors and materialising them. I know what you mean.
So I found that, and intrinsically I probably knew it somewhere in the background, but when we were actually talking about it, I was like, yeah, this is a deeper level of the conversation. I'm learning so much more about what I've been able to achieve by travelling solo. It's not just literally going and seeing landmarks.
It's like a big reflection pod.
Yeah, absolutely. I probably didn't think it would be like that, honestly.
I think that's the thing. From being here at this event, one thing that I've realised massively is you really have to just action and let things evolve. And as soon as you've put it out there, and there's so many different aspects of it, that it does just grow. It grows with you, it grows with your audience, and it's such a wonderful thing to be part of as well.
The thing you just said a minute ago about throwing yourself in at the deep end, this thing that we're doing right now,
major deep end,
is literally that. Like, you put that message out there, and I was like, well, the thing you want to talk about, I like talking about, and we never met. And here we are having this chat.
Got a podcast.
Literally met 30 minutes ago. Said hello, and it feels like we've been talking all day. Do you know what I mean? And that's like, I would never have done that years ago.
Really?
I would never have been that person who replied to that message. I would never have done that. Yeah, if the topic was different, if you wanted to